When it comes to a choice between gluten-free, keto-friendly blueberry muffins and gluten-free, keto-friendly blueberry bread, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to choose the gluten-free, keto-friendly blueberry bread. I mean, I love blueberry muffins just as much as the next person does, but the problem is when you're making them at home, they can be a little bit tricky. If you don't get that flour to liquid ratio just right, you're going to end up with wet cupcakes and they're just going to be soggy mess. If you over stir them, which is what I have a tendency to do, they're going to come out of your oven looking beautiful and fluffy, and within seconds they're going to sink down in the middle and you're going to have this sunken, yucky, ugly looking muffin. It might still taste good, but it's not going to be pretty at all. And so it's a whole lot easier just to make the blueberry muffin bread. You get all the yumminess of blueberry muffins just in bread form, and it's so much more easier to make. You don't have to worry so much about over stirring and getting this deflated little lump. It turns out great every time. And if you want a printable version of this, then check out my website at janetsdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find a printable version of this recipe and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the little notification bell. That way you can be notified every time I put out a new video. And while you do that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Line an 8 by 4 inch loaf pan with parchment paper. In a large mixing bowl, combine 1½ cups of almond flour, a ½ cup of monkfruit sweetener or granulated sweetener of your choice, 2½ teaspoons of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon xanthan gum. This is your binding agent, so make sure you have that. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Whisk these all together just until they're fully combined and there's no lumps in the almond flour. Sometimes almond flour likes to bunch up on you, so just make sure there's no lumps in it, that everything's nice and combined. Add 1/2 cup of oil of your choice. I'm using canola oil. You can use any type of oil you want. Just make sure that it is a neutral flavored oil. You don't want to use olive oil or avocado oil because they have a very strong taste. You want an oil that has a fairly neutral taste, like canola oil or grapeseed oil or coconut oil. Something that has a very mild flavor so it doesn't overtake the taste of your bread. Add 2 large room temperature eggs. Again, as I always say, room temperature. And 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And stir all the ingredients together just until they're blended. Don't over stir it, that can make your batter tough, so just stir it enough until everything's nice and combined and all the ingredients are fully distributed together. Gently fold in 1 cup of blueberries. You can use fresh or frozen. If you use frozen blueberries, you don't have to thaw them out. In fact, if you thaw them out, it'll probably make your bread too wet. Just take them directly from the freezer and fold them into your batter if you are using frozen blueberries. I'm actually using frozen blueberries here because I ran out of fresh blueberries. So frozen blueberries work just fine. As I said, just do not thaw them. Make sure when you fold them in gently. You don't want to smash your blueberries. If you stir them in, then you're going to end up spreading the blueberries and you're going to end up with a purple batter, which won't taste bad, but it just will look a little strange. So make sure you are gentle and just fold in the blueberries just until they're evenly distributed in the batter. Pour your batter into the prepared loaf pan and use a spatula and smooth out the top if needed. You want to make sure it's evenly spread in the loaf pan. Lightly sprinkle the top of the loaf with 1 tablespoon of monkfruit sweetener. This is optional. You don't have to add it if you don't want to. It'll still turn out fine without it. I just like it because it gives it a little bit of extra sweetness. But it's up to you if you want to add that or not. Place it in the oven and bake 55 to 60 minutes or until a tester comes out clean. Make sure you do put a tester or toothpick in and make sure it comes out clean, because if you just judge by how the top is looking and how brown the top is getting, there's a good chance that your bread will be undercooked and then it'll sink in after it's cooled. So the top of it is gonna brown faster because it is made with almond flour. Almond flour does brown quickly. So you will see it getting brown, but don't take it out until that 55-minute mark. Then test it with a tester or toothpick and make sure it comes out clean. Once it comes out clean, then you know that it's fully done, and then you won't have to worry about it caving in on you once it's cool, because if it's not done all the way through, then once you take it out and it starts cooling, it will deflate completely. All bread deflates a little bit when it comes out, but you will have a drastic deflating if it is not done all the way through. So make sure you test that. Once it's all done baking, let it cool in the pan for about 15 minutes. Then use a butter knife and gently loosen the sides. Once you've loosened the sides, let it cool in the pan for another hour. I've talked many times and will talk many times again about how fragile gluten-free baked goods are when they are hot. You really have to let them set good before you try to move them out of the pan and onto a wire rack. You really have to make sure they're cooled good, otherwise they will fall apart on you. They're very, very fragile because they do not have gluten to hold them together. The xanthan gum is the binding agent, but it still doesn't quite do the same job as gluten does. So gluten-free baked goods are very, very fragile, so make sure you let it cool in the pan for at least another hour. Once that hour's up, then use your butter knife and loosen the sides again if needed. And gently turn it out onto a wire rack to let it cool completely. Again, be very gentle with it because it still will be slightly warm. Don't just flip your pan over and let it plop out. Be gentle with it. Once it's cooled completely on the wire rack, cut your desired slices. If you're not going to eat this right away, store it in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 3-4 days. If you don't think you're going to eat it within 3 or 4 days, then slice it up and put parchment paper in between each slice. Then store it in an airtight container and freeze it until you're ready to use it. Make sure you do pre-slice it. That way you can just take out the amount of slices that you want, put them on your countertop and let them thaw out. They only take a couple minutes to thaw out, so don't put them in the microwave because that can make them chewy. So just let them sit on your countertop for a few minutes if you freeze them and let them thaw out on their own. And there you have it. Gluten-free, keto-friendly, blueberry muffin bread. Eat and enjoy. And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like and the subscribe button. Leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.